Welcome to Inspired Artist Podcast with me, Porter Singer. I have the privilege of speaking with Rhiannon Roze today, who is a DJ, producer, writer, and MC from Canada. I follow her on Instagram, and I met her at Bhakti Fest, and you'll see she does lots of really cool things. She just did a New Year's in New Orleans, I think, so we should talk about that. That sounds like fun. She was formerly known as DJ Rhiannon and has been rocking the decks for over 20 years. She bought her first pair of Technics turntables in 2001. Rhiannon spun vinyl records for the first 8 years. Since then, she's DJed in clubs all over North America and Latin America with stopovers in England, Japan, and Australia. And she's opened for Tïesto, Stedmo 5. You can interject there, Rhiannon, if you'd like. Chris Lake. What's that?
I love that you don't know. It's perfect. This is otherworld, but yeah, dead mouse.
Dead mouse. Okay, no, I have heard that. I just didn't realize it was spelled that way. Okay, cool. Chris Lake and more electronic dance music heavyweights. That's really cool. She has played at EDC Vegas, Nocturnal Wonderland, UME, and other festivals, and she's really released tracks on Insomniac Records, Night Bass, In Rotation, and many more record labels. She's collaborated with Habstrakt, Matroda. Okay, I'm just gonna stop because I can't
love it. I love it. I'm like, yes, it doesn't actually matter.
But anyway, she currently resides in Los Angeles, California, where she's focused on producing music, writing lyrics, and recording vocals. And when she's not recording music, she's recording voiceovers. Ooh, that's fun. Facilitating pranayama sessions and volunteering for the Breath Center, an academy of integrated human sciences dedicated to education, wellness, and awakening. Cool. Well, welcome, Rhiannon.
Thanks so much. Happy to be here.
Yeah. That was so funny. I usually make sure that I know how to pronounce the person's name right, because I have a lot of people with I don't know, interesting names that come on the podcast, but I should have read your bio first and asked you how to pronounce more of those names.
No, it's great.
So yeah. So that's really cool. I didn't realize some of the stuff in your bio that I guess I should have, but that you also do voiceovers. That's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Is it fun?
It is definitely. It's like everything. It's like when you're really into the craft of it and you really do it for the joy of doing it, everything's amazing. And then when you start dabbling into the work side of things, you're like, I have to audition 50 times before I book something.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, I do it because I love it. And I'm definitely an artist that goes with the flow. It's like, oh, everything closed down. Okay, then I'll go do this. Oh, everything's okay. All right, I'll go do that.
Is that how you got into it? Is when everything was closed down for COVID that
it's funny. I actually somehow got into it back in Vancouver and
let me unpin you. I'm sorry. I am a little, there we go. Now we can see you. Okay.
I got into it in 2008. I did take I was into acting a little bit and just mostly taking classes because that was way more fun than auditioning and being nervous. So I kind of did that for the joy of it, and somehow, I don't know, somehow heard about voiceover, got into that, but then I came down to the States and took a really big hiatus because I was focused on the DJ stuff. And yeah, maybe it's this beautiful blessing that I kind of just started steering back into voiceover a little bit. And then, yeah, when things closed down, I was like, okay, we're full on in voiceover mode because there are no live events.
Yeah. How much are you touring normally?
I don't even know that I have a normal. I've had years where it's insane. I'm Tokyo, and then I fly back and work with the time difference to do a show in LA. Then it's Newfoundland, and then I'm like, oh, I'm going to Argentina, and it's just bonkers because it's interesting because if you're at this crazy high level with the touring, is you can really get organized and be like, okay, that city, then that city. But I was like, I'll take anything I can get, and so I was flying all over the world for a long time.
That's crazy. How much time between gigs?
Sometimes none. Sometimes it was literally oh, that's a nice looking bed in my hotel room. I wish I could sleep in it. Well, off to the airport.
Oh, jeez. Mostly sleeping on planes, I'm guessing, or I hope.
Yeah, I did. I used to not be able to, and then my body was like, "Oh no, we can do this now. We can sleep wherever, whenever."
Oh, that's a nice skill. That's a really good skill. I envy that. Um, so what has been like, I guess, the most exciting part about the DJing thing for you?
Um, I really love just the it's funny because in the yoga world and things we talk about, present moment awareness and like working with energy and all these different things. And I'm like, man, like DJing for me was all about that. Like
Mm,
you're forced to be in the moment. Actually, the first sort of present moment awareness experience I had was on a dance floor. That's when I had, because I didn't grow up with parents who were into yoga or meditation or even church or anything. Like, so they're yeah, it was interesting. It was on a dance floor and I had this experience of like nothing else existed except that moment and that music and that it was so beautiful. And I was like, oh, this is really special, and this is so powerful. And then just like seeing that it was the DJ who was basically facilitating that experience for people, I was like, oh, I want to do that. And it still feels that magical to me back from 20 years ago to now. It's feels so special.
wow, that's a really cool approach. I would imagine not everyone well, maybe everyone you meet does have that approach because that's what you attract, but like I would imagine that's not typical of DJing necessarily, that you feel like you're facilitating a present moment space or like yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And that does I actually have curiosity around that. Like, does everyone else know how cool this is and how like not well, actually not so the coolness, but like the really this special. It's such a like beautiful opportunity I feel to like connect with people and really there's this almost like cyclical energy that's created because I'm just giving them everything I've got. It's almost like I feel like my heart just opens up and I'm like, take all the love, and all the energy, but also like that rawness too. That's sort of like, yeah, like the music, the beat, and then they're giving it when when they're really in, they give it back to you, and then it's like this awesome like cyclical thing, and it's just such an amazing experience.
Yeah. Wow. So how much preparation goes into creating that moment, if any, or is it just like a download in the moment of what you're going to play?
Great question. Honestly, I do so much preparation of music. I don't plan my sets, but that's why I have to be so organized because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't even necessarily know what kind of audience I'm going to have. And again, it's like if you get to these levels of you're producing music that's, popular, or people love it, you can kind of just show up and do your thing. You play your music. Whereas I'm in this sort of middle ground and I've always been like a true DJ at heart where I show up. I don't know who's going to be there. I might have a little indication of, okay, it's this city, it's this particular club, maybe this kind of crowd, but you don't really know what's going to happen or what they're really going to jive to. So you have to just have your crates really organized, all your music kind of queued up, ready to go, and just be flexible, be ready to like roll with where they're at and maybe take them somewhere, but well, certainly take them somewhere. But like my thing was always to really connect with who they are, what's going to make them move, what do they love, what's going to bring them into the moment, and give them a really good time.
When you do crates and quotes, it's because like you used to travel with vinyl, but you don't anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny to call them crates, but I'm like, yeah, I'm not like sort of, yeah, swinging like this massive backpack onto my back full of records anymore. It's like little USB.
Oh, that's, I have to sneeze. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's more compact, better for traveling, especially, I would imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you like do repeat audiences? Like, does are you ever like, oh, I remember what that one felt like, so I kind of know what my approach is going to be like, or is it just always different?
Yeah, great question because, of course things do evolve even in like the same city at the same club. Yet, um, it's funny that you brought up that I happen to play in New Orleans on New
Mm.
Year's Eve. That I've been playing in New Orleans for 11 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and it is the same booker that's booked me. And initially, he booked me at this club called Ampersand, which was this incredible nightclub. It was all electronic dance music. There was the hybrid stuff. But he's since that club had to close down because the building closed down. So he's been booking me at a club that's actually way more commercial. So I would play open format music, which I've been really moving away from lately. So New
What does
Year's Eve.
that mean? Open
Oh,
form.
it just open format means like you kind of play a little bit of everything. And it typically means that it's more top 40 or commercial music.
Okay.
It's just kind of like open. It's like whatever. And it's interesting because the crowd typically they're more into they don't necessarily care who you are. Like particularly New Orleans, like they're just doing their thing. Like I was hired as a DJ, not necessarily like Rhiannon Roze. They're just like, okay, like we know you can rock this, so here you go. And you kind of like throw you to the wolves because they do not care who you are, which is such a cool challenge because you're like, all right, like what's up? Can I do this? Can I rock this? And it was really, really fun. It kind of brought me back to my DJ Rhiannon days, if because I did rebrand in with the intention of going more just okay, pure like bass house and tech house and just electronic dance music. Yet, yeah, doing my DJ Rhiannon thing and like it was like you'd play a track for like maximum 2 minutes and then you're like boom, mix the next one, boom, mix the next one, and just like hit those like almost like those anthems, the things that are going to make that particular crowd move because that's dirty South. It's like New Orleans. It's like they're mostly into hip hop, which I feel like I'm like, oh, my hip hop crates are a little dusty at the moment, but I got really organized for that gig and was able to rock it. Thank goodness.
What does getting organized look like?
It's really getting to well, I'd say getting to know your music. Sometimes I'm almost playing blind in the sense that I'm like, okay, I just downloaded this track yesterday. I managed to get some cue points on it, so I know, okay, I've got to mix in by this part because the vocal starts maybe, and but otherwise I may not be that familiar with the track, but I've done enough sort of I guess I've been doing this for long enough that I can kind of usually wing it, but really it comes down to like if I'm attracted to a song, I feel like okay, that's got something in it, some energy that resonates with me, which is usually like it's fun or it's energetic or it's really or it could be like really like grimy and raw, but it's like yeah, like that would make me dance. And so I trust that intuition when I'm choosing because there could be one song that's popular but there's 10 different remixes, so I'm like okay, which one do I resonate with, which one do I think will really make people move. So yeah, and it's just that's a lot of time on the computer, I guess, and with the speakers or the headphones, just really getting into like the energy of each track and organizing it into different playlists and things.
Are you taking notes of this stuff, like voice enters at three colon?
No, no, and that's what can make it challenging. But I mean, the one thing that the software program lets you do is put little like red tags, so like little like cue points. So it'd be like the very first beat, and then like the next bar, and then the next bar, and then if there's no more cue points, I know that okay, something started there, whether it's like the vocal or something. And so I'm usually like, okay, I got to mix in by that third cue point kind of thing.
Okay, okay. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of listening, a lot of
Yeah.
listening to music. And when you're listening, are you like necessarily actively listening, or are you like folding laundry listening, or like does it vary?
Good question. Yeah, it's definitely active listening. Like if I'm kind of going through these different record pools online and like searching for that perfect remix of that track or whatever, then I'm yeah, pretty actively listening. Um and then and that's for like open format gigs when I'm really like okay, I got to get this together for this crowd that doesn't even necessarily know who I am. Whereas if I'm DJing as doing a like more of a performance and DJ set as Rhiannon Roze, then I'd be actually more focused on working in Ableton and like making new music or making my own remixes and
Um,
bootlegs and things. So it depends, yeah.
so is that kind of the difference between what or the reason that you rebranded was to do more remixes of your own? Is that, or how do you see the way that you rebranded, I guess?
Wow, it's interesting because part of me, I just felt like because I was DJ Rhiannon, and I felt, well, wow, I'm doing all these like lyrics and vocals and things, and I thought if I'm collaborating with people and it's sort of like Matroda featuring DJ Rhiannon, almost felt like, okay, what did the DJ do? I don't get it. Like I almost felt like, oh, I need a more like neutral
Oh,
name.
I
So
get it.
so it could be like, this is my artist name, and I DJ, I MC, I write, I record, I produce, like all the different things. And who knows, I don't, maybe just being DJ Rhiannon for 18 years, I was like, well, let's shake it up a little bit and change. But yeah, I guess that was the intention, was to go like full on like artist mode, because there are different kinds of DJs. There's
Mm,
the producer DJ, which is what my intention is for Rhiannon Roze. She's, producer, who, when you book her to DJ, she's DJing her stuff and like her sound. And then there's club DJ, which I come from, a club DJ and even mobile DJ. People hire me to play in all sorts of events and things, and I just, because I love DJing, that's the thing, it's so hard to say no. Someone's like, oh, we want you to come do this, I don't know if it's like even like some little like hotel thing for 4th of July, and I'm like, well, yeah, that's gonna be so fun. How could I say
mm.
no?
That's so cool. So mobile is when it's just kind of anywhere. Is that what mobile means?
Yeah, and typically means you also provide your own equipment. Like you'll show up with like the speakers, and like you'll set everything up on the stands and like the whole thing. So it's a lot of work, but typically pays more because of that. So yeah.
And
And
are
then
you doing this solo all the time, or do you have like a crew ever?
no, just me, myself, and I. Right? Yeah, carrying everything.
How much bulk is that? Like if you were to set up a whole sound system.
It's a lot. I guess if you get really good speakers and it's not too big of a space, you can get away with just like two big speakers. But there certainly was a time when I hadn't done the mobile thing or anything for a while because of the lockdown.
Hmm.
And some of my first gigs back were at hotels, because they were technically almost like private property, but they could have a DJ playing at the pool or something. So those are the first gigs I did coming out of the lockdown. And I was like, I'll take it, anything I can get. And I remember I hadn't lifted a speaker like that for a while. And at some point I like lifted the speaker, and I was like so close to the stand, and I was like started to like lean back, and I was like, uh-oh. And like some guy came by and he's like, let me help you with that. He helped me get it on the stand. I was like, oh, thank you. Yeah, I had it, but yeah, cool, thanks. It's like, all right, I should have been working out to prepare for this.
Oh my gosh. Did you realize how like ripped for
Right?
equipment you were?
Yeah. It's a whole thing.
I haven't done a lot of touring actually. It's funny. I like mostly record. I really don't tour very much. But I used to do like in my very early days out of college, I used to do singer-songwriter stuff, and I had well, kind of like this keyboard I have behind me. I don't know if you can see it, but it's like a weighted keyboard, except that it was built in, 2001, so it weighed like 3, 4 times what they do now. And so I would and I would go like to these crappy gigs. I mean, like Borders, bookstores, coffee shops, stuff. Crappy in the sense that nobody knew who I was, but like really fun. I enjoyed doing it, and that's why I was doing it. But people would like always be so surprised that I could lift this keyboard.
No doubt.
But yeah,
Yeah,
you get used to it.
yeah, and it's like, what are you gonna hire someone for that? Like, I don't
Right.
know, 10 seconds you need them to, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Wow. So did you have a lot of stuff planned before the lockdowns? Did you that you had to cancel, or was it kind of like, oh, I didn't have anything anyway?
Certainly, yeah, like, the momentum of DJ gigs, like that was kind of my thing, so it was definitely odd. And it's not like I had major tours planned, like the really big producer DJ types, like that would have hurt, I think. Yet, you know, everything was okay. It did end up opening back up, and people are certainly touring again, which is awesome. Um, But yeah, I almost like just quickly pivoted and was like, okay, I'll do voiceover. And I had already been studying with Michael Brian Baker and the Breast Center, their program
Okay.
called Anatomy of Awakening. And I'd already been dabbling in that for years, since 2015. So it kind of gave me an opportunity to, well, do a variety of things. I did dive into music production deeper, though I really missed the sort of camaraderie and the experience of going to the studio and like seeing people there, and even just being like, hey, like I can't get this snare right, like what do you think, or whatever, like. And so I definitely missed that, because it was like, oh, I'm just sitting in my like kitchen alone, like working. I don't know, it was weird. And so I did get a lot out of taking uh, more like sort of online classes and completing my certification with the Breast Center to be a certified, facilitator of pranayama, or breathwork, as people are calling it, and and that was wonderful, because then I became a TA, and there was interaction on Zoom, and like some kind of schedule and people,
Mm.
and like, and of course that work is really beautiful. So that felt really good during the
Yeah.
lockdown.
Yeah, I actually forgot about that. I did a few of those at Bhakti Fest. I always really enjoyed that. Yeah, that's very
Yeah.
cool. What is, I guess I haven't like delved so deeply into breathwork that I can really tell the difference between the modalities that seem like really similar to me. Because I asked somebody that was talking about breathwork on the podcast about her circular breathing technique, and I was like, is it like Wim Hof? And she's like, no, it's different than, but then I took one with her and I was like, okay, this seems really similar. So I'm not but I forget what Brian Michael Baker's is like. It's also through the mouth, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's interesting, because you're so right, because sometimes the techniques can be really similar, but they might be practiced in a different way, and even like and facilitated in a different way. Like I know the way uh Michael does it. Well, and again, it's not even like Michael's thing. Like literally, this originates with the rishis. Like this is like original stuff. That's just been fortunately carried through writings and lineage. But anyway, it's going to sound very fancy, but it's because Michael specifically didn't want to rebrand it, because pranayama is breathwork is comes from pranayama. I mean, all of this is literally millennia old, right? So none of us created it. We've taken it from these origins, and people have kind of rebranded it, which is it's interesting, because there's the light side of that, is that it's like, cool, it's reach more people, because it's like, oh, this shtick or that thing or whatever, and it's it's has amazing, incredible health benefits. And then the sort of, I guess, shadow side is that we are kind of erasing origins and being like, this, I created this, and so it's a little tricky, and we kind of explore all the different like pieces of that. But the particular uh technique that Michael teaches, it's a Kriya pranayama that affects Vyana Vayu. So I mean, I could geek out on this stuff forever, but it's like,
Go
the
for it.
it's like, what I appreciate is that we get to really understand like what's happening in the body. So it's not just sort of like, hey, there's this thing and this is the name, and like just do it, and then I guess the risk is that people have this big experience, and then they're like, oh, it's that one thing, and it's like, no,
Mm,
it's you. Like,
mm,
you were built for this. Like, this is yoga, this is thousands of years old, this is this human technology, this is um something that resides within you, and that specifically that inclusion of the word prana, right? Because we're talking about universal life force energy, and that we all have that, and it's a way to bring more of that into the system. Even the definition, like, so again, like, for those who may not know, that breath work pulls from, the origin of that is this practice of pranayama, and there's over 50 techniques of pranayama, and that prana, universal life force energy, ayama, to extend or expand. So
mm.
we're taking in that energy and we're expanding, and the expansion happens through that retention. So when hold your breath, which sounds terrifying to someone who's never done it, but the idea is that you would oxygenate your body to the point that if you have a retention, that it's not going to feel like this crazy struggle or something, because the body's already thoroughly oxygenated. That's the only reason we actively breathe is to oxygenate. So if we've almost over oxygenated, then we don't necessarily have to breathe for that moment. And in that retention, the it's like the cilia and alveoli in the lungs are like uptaking that energy into the meridian system and the nervous system, and it's just so
Mm.
incredible, like so many health benefits. And yeah, and it can also, and I have to put it out there that it can be dangerous, like if people are, for example, someone's like super pitta vata, right? And then they're like really like doing some practice where it's very um solar, very masculine, and they're pushing and pushing and pushing, and like that's not great for that. You can blow out your nervous system. So there's something to be said for it, because I've had people come through, like I do it online via Zoom every other week, and I've had people come through that are like, well, I've done breathwork before and I said I'd never do it again. It was like a horrible experience. I was really stressed and da da da. They're like, but and I'm like, cool, like I totally get it. Like give it a go and feel free to just enjoy the music and meditation if you don't want to actually do the practice. But they've stuck with it and they're like, oh, that was completely different from the
Mm.
experience I had. And I'm like, yeah, the way we facilitate is more yin based. It's feminine, it's receiving, it's it's a balance to maybe what because we're kind of like all running around producing and going and doing like all day, like then we're going to go into our practice and be like you know what I mean, it's just like, wait, where's the balance, like like
Mm.
and so it's just a different approach, and and that approach can work for some people and not everyone. So I guess that's why I'm like, whenever we get on that topic, I'm like, it's not one breath work, or even there's so many techniques and different ways of facilitating them and practicing them. It's
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine what sort of person or in what sort of profession would need like a really hardcore, hard paced kind of workout to balance out their life.
Right.
Like someone who, a librarian, maybe.
Just like, all right. Yeah, I mean, and I mean, when we look at like, yeah, like the doshas or body types, like if you think of someone who's maybe more kapha and has more, BMI, body mass index, that
Mm.
you know that if they're kind of coming from a place of that's already a bit lunar, or like or slower, or like as we've seen a lot, when we're kind of in that more right brain place, it's like they say that's, oh, rest and digest is parasympathetic nervous system, right, connected to all that right brain, parasympathetic. And it's like, oh yeah, that's like the healing and the rest and digest, like, yeah, but some people can almost be can get stuck there too, right? If you're in deep rest, you're deep rest, right? And it's sort of like, okay, so maybe that person would need a balancing of a bit more of a fire practice. They get on the mat and do the hatha yoga, then yeah, then sure, yeah, do more like intense breathing practice. The very, again, various techniques. Some are more lunar, some are more solar driven. But
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm I definitely tend towards faster paced. That is definitely so my partner is very well, he's slower moving than I am. Balance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, well that's really cool. So you teach that as like a weekly thing to anyone, or like anyone who wants to join, or what's the registration process for that, I guess?
Sure, yeah. Basically, it's something I started during lockdown because I couldn't, it was like the last thing you're gonna do is breathe in the same room as someone else. So I was like, okay, online we go. But I was really just guiding, basically it's like facilitating a session, and so people would sign up just through email, basically. Like I just have like kind of private invite list. It's not something I particularly promote, it's just kind
Mm.
of word of mouth. But I did build a website for it, just as like a landing place for people. But yeah, and I was doing it weekly during while everything was closed, and then when everything opened up, I got busier. um and then but my friends who were coming were like, wait, you got to keep doing it though, right? And I'm like, no, okay, like, because it seemed to be working for people, but I just reduced it to every other week. Um, but I'm essentially facilitating a session from start to finish. So if it's someone's first time, they'd come and I'd give them an introduction to the practice, let them know,
Mhm.
what to expect or what they might experience, just so they're prepared. And essentially, we do kind of vet people for this because it's, again, not for everyone. So in the email, there's like a, medical contraindications and, different, like, history of seizures or just particular, psychological issues and things. Because, something this powerful, people can, bifurcate. Like that's the other thing that I don't know like if other, facilitators are kind of looking for that, but Michael does such a great job of training for that and being like, hey, I learned by making mistakes. Like like this is my experiences. I, don't want you to have this experience. Someone's on your table having a seizure and you're not a doctor. This is a
Ooh.
problem. You know what I mean? Like, not cool. So it's like, it's important that people are kind of vetted and prepared appropriately before the practice. Because we're, and people are like, what? Like, it's just breathing. But, particularly with the Kriya techniques, essentially, it's like when you're bringing a charge, energy, right? Charge, you're bringing that charge to the sacrum and building that Agni or heat or fire there. We're essentially, we're talking about raising Ida and Pingala. Like we are talking about that, removing that block and that, a lot of people refer to as like Kundalini, and this is big stuff. I mean, like, no one would go into, hopefully, into like a master plant medicine ceremony just sort of
Mhm.
nonchalantly, right? Like, because it's like, okay, why? Because the prana we're ingesting, we're getting the prana from the plants, but it's the same thing. It stimulates cerebral spinal fluid, which, and then we have that rise and those experiences. It's big stuff, it can be really big stuff. So it's interesting. And at the same time, some people could come and just be like, oh yeah, it's really great. It just has nice meditation, like it's cool. It could be nothing. So it's like the ultimate adaptogen, right? Like prana
Mhm.
just goes wherever for whatever. It's pretty
I like
magic.
that. It's not lost on you that these, I mean, I won't say that they're similar, but it's just, you're facilitating a similar experience, it seems like, right? With the DJing and the breathwork.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, yeah, and it is fair, and it's funny because at some point I couldn't quite grasp that golden thread, but then I thought, oh wait, like I'm like fully using all my DJ equipment when I facilitate these sessions because it's like the
Really?
music and yeah, because I'm playing, like a soundscape during, throughout the session, and then I'm also like, I have my mic and I'm, got a little reverb on there, and I'm, guiding people through the meditation, and so I was like, okay, yeah, I'm still doing me. This is cool. Yeah.
What got you into to it DJing in the first place, or producing or music or any of it? Like, what was Canada? What was the Canada portion of your life
Right.
like?
Yeah. It was honestly extremely organic. Like when I was a kid, I loved music. Mom was like, if we went to a store, even like a grocery store, if there was music playing, she's like, you were out of the stroller. Like you were like, let me out, And she's like, you would just get up and you just be like dancing. And she's like, sometimes you'd even have a little crowd gathering around you, like, oh my God, this little girl's dancing. But I didn't care. I was just, yeah, there was definitely a draw to the power of music since I was a little. And then really it was just, I mean, I remember making cassette mixtapes of it basically, this is how pure it was. It was just like I was like, I want to hear these songs in this order. Like these are my
Mm.
favorite songs and I want to hear them in this order. Like I didn't even know there was such thing as a DJ. It was just that it was that experience of creating that, like journey. And then I play it for my friends, be like, check this out. And so really it was just, I feel like it's always been there and it was just evolving with the technology.
Yeah. Did you ever read that book High Fidelity or see the movie? It's
I don't, if I did, I forgot about it.
it's all about mixtapes, but it's like somebody's life through I guess through like the paradigm of a mixtape, kind of.
Oh, cool.
That's how I remember it anyway. I can't remember if the book is too terribly different from the movie, but the movie's with John Cusack. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's cool. It's about his relationship, but like through music and mixtapes. I don't know. It feels like
yeah,
something. Yeah.
100% rings a bell, probably because it's other people that are like, "You've seen High Fidelity, right?" I'm like, so I'll have to go watch that.
Ah, that's so neat. I used to have a karaoke machine, so some of my like my first recording stuff was like taking the tape over to the second side and having another tape and then recording the tape that I just recorded with an overdub vocal on it, and then like you keep swapping it, and so that you have more and more voices on it. Like really,
Nice,
really rudimentary recording.
right?
So fun. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Because that's more fun.
Yeah.
Um, so, and then you moved to the States for music or what? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was yeah, after I graduated university, it's funny, I was in a relationship with someone who was American and then they kind of got kicked out of Canada because it was like you're working here. And so they had split and went to Seattle and then so
Hmm.
we were kind of doing the
Where I am.
what's that?
That's where I am.
Oh,
Seattle.
really? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yes, yes. Oh, I did know that. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, so I was kind of doing the I don't know, semi long distance. I was constantly like driving back and forth. And then
Were
I
you
don't know.
Vancouver?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
so easy. Well, I mean, fairly easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but eventually they're like you want to go to San Francisco? I was like, let's do it. And and I just yeah, I pursued music. I caught wind of this really shady manager guy who was in LA, but it was sort of like, hey, there's these, opportunities here, whatever. So yeah, I went to San Francisco, but then I ended up commuting to LA constantly. So eventually I was like, okay, I'm just gonna move to LA. Um, and yeah, it was really all about the DJing. I just wanted to DJ. I just wanted like the more of that experience, I guess. And yeah, wild adventure. It was like naive Canadian girl moves to Hollywood and is like, everyone's out for my best interest, right? So I was like, I had a like formal education and then I went to like LA and got like my street education. Like, oh, the big wide world.
Okay. So you're in like that I mean you're in like industry on a daily basis? Are you like dealing with like contracts and managers and agents and stuff like that? Is that what you're talking about? Or like being hired
Oh,
for things is like that? Or like what?
I mean, at the time, well, at least when I first came to LA, I mean, I didn't have a work visa. So it was just this whole like dance of sort of like chicken or the egg. Cause like, oh, well, you have to have a work visa to work here. And I'm like, yeah, but I have to meet people and get, sponsors and things happening to get the visa. So it was a really wild dance. And I think of that as, well, in like Vedic, Jodish terms, like that was my Rahu period. So it was really
I've
wild.
heard that before. What does that mean?
Oh, just like I don't know, like in our lives, like we have like these bigger periods of particular um, you know, like planets. And so for me, that happened to be going through 19 years of Rahu from 2001 to 2000, yeah, 19. It was funny because this
It's an
uh
astrological thing.
yeah, 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 Vedic, yeah, like basically astrology, but Vedic astrology.
Mm.
And I remember like when this guy read my natal chart or astral chart that he's like, yeah, like be good to start a career in music in 2001. I was getting this reading in like 2015, but he was just kind of going back to look at the bigger periods. And I was like, that's literally when I had my first DJ gig, 2001. So I was like, I was right on the money. But typically like Rahu, it's not a physical planet in the sky, but it's like it's an entity, and um it's basically known as that like roller coaster period. If you're living your sort of period of Rahu in your life, it's kind of a bit of a roller coaster, and mine certainly was. It was like no work visa, uh,
It totally
just like
sounds like that. It's like Rahoo!
yeah, totally.
Is it typical to have that many years of it?
I don't know. I mean, for example, so it switched in 2019, so now I'm in 16 years of Jupiter. So these are like these grander periods, and there's definitely like it's definitely
Oh,
broken up as well into like more minor periods. So I might be in like Jupiter Mars right now. I don't know, but yeah, landing in Jupiter energy, just like the I don't know, like the master and the teacher and thing. I was like, this feels way more stable than that last one. So I'm happy to be here.
that's really cool. Um, and interesting to like have it confirmed in hindsight, I guess, too, and not
Right,
kind of predict
totally.
it. Yeah. Yeah, wow. Well, do you have anything coming up or like anything else you wanted to share before we depart?
Sure. Basically, I just feel like I'm just doing my thing. I'm really focused. 2023 for me is studio time. I've been doing a lot of collabs like over the pandemic that felt it's easy to kind of work with people remotely, and I had a little recording booth and things, so I was doing a lot of that as I was really focused on assisting like Michael with the breast center stuff and TAing and things. And now it's like the winds of, switch direction. I'm like, all right, I'm fully back into, music production mode. So that's my goal for this year is to be producing solo originals. And
Oh,
still
fun.
collabing as well, but I really just want to dive into production and nerd out in Ableton and make my own music. And other than that, yeah, just releasing and DJing and voiceover, whatever kind of comes my way. I'm into it. I'm really grateful that things are, just open again and I can do my thing more.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So we can expect to hear some more recordings.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, nice. Okay. So how can people stay in touch with you and find out what you're doing?
I mean, as long as you can spell my name, you're good. That's the most challenging part. But if you plug that in anywhere, you're fine. And I'm sure you'll be able to see that. But like Rhiannon, and then Rose, Roze, or Roze if you're listening from Canada.
Or anywhere in the Commonwealth, really.
Right? Totally.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I'll have your links in the show notes so people can click on that.
Nice.
See what you're up to. Yeah. Thank you so much for being willing to do this.
Of course. It was so fun. Great
And
to chat with you.
You too, yeah. Thank you everyone for listening. If you have any questions or feedback on this episode, or you want to share something, you can email me at inspiredartistpodcast@gmail.com, and we will see you in the next episode. All right, bye. Thanks for tuning into the podcast, y'all. Please like, subscribe, rate, comment, whatever the platform you listen to podcasts on offers you as a way to let its algorithm know that you're enjoying these episodes. That really helps. Also, there's some links in the podcast description notes that allow you to support the podcast in a way that benefits you and us. So please check those out. And if you'd like to stay in touch with me, you can sign up for my mailing list at portersinger.com. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye.